MovieWeb.com.
The Chinese have a saying that it takes 1,000 years of good prayers for a father and daughter to get along. My daughter has become a stranger since she moved to America.
Have you ever thought about finding answers to all the questions you have?
China no have God.
That's why we're here talking to you.
This country is a mystery to me.
What you do?
I studied to be a forensic scientist.
I'm scientist, rocket scientist.
A lot of people think I'm weird and morbid, but I think I have a very sunny outlook on things.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
you like sun.
High-waisted pants and the back brace something you brought to the character, or was that the way it was always envisioned in the script?
No. No.
I think the high-waisted pants is pretty much you, right? But the back brace we made up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how much of an influence did your dad's visit actually have on creating the script with Yi Lin? Am I saying her name right?
Yong Li.
Yong Li.
Yeah. Well, it resonated a lot with my dad's visit. But I don't think it had a lot to do with the specifics of my dad's visit, because Yi Yong probably had a very similar experience, because she wrote something that was very similar to mine.
Well, in writing the script, did you two sit down and write it together, or did you just give her some of your ideas and send her off to
I
do
just
it,
gave her some, I just gave her, in writing the script, I just gave her some ideas and let her go and do it. And she'd come back and then we go over it, very carefully.
No, I want to know, with you working with is her name Vida?
Yes, Vida.
Vida, did you guys collaborate sort of on a dialogue together, or was all of that scripted in Russian and Cantonese, or how did
It's
that work
Persian
out?
and
Or Persian,
Mandarin and yeah.
and all those different languages. I mean, how did you guys choreograph those scenes together? Because it's very interesting.
It's a 50-50. We improvise a lot.
So a lot of that is improvised on
Yeah.
the set between you
Yeah.
guys. Did you ever actually know what she was saying to you when you were
Nothing.
improvising, or you just
Nothing.
kind of took?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, Henry is a very prepared actor, so Henry obsessively worked out what he was going to say in bad English. But she would be very intuitive and threw him completely off. I mean, she would just go and talk about anything and give him a cell phone. And so it was a mix of being very well planned and all those going out the window,
That's cool. So,
Yeah, and which it should be, because it's really about a conversation between two people who doesn't share a common language that way. So,
and has that happened to you a lot in life, where either one of you have come in contact with somebody that you don't really share their language vocally, but personally you can kind of get where they're coming from?
well, I've gotten that a lot. In the early days when I was working in Chinatown, a lot of the students that I had spoke a different dialect of Chinese. So it's like not understanding them at all, and they didn't speak English. So a lot of it depended on basically gestures, body language, and a few words that you can understand.
Now, watching your films, I always feel like just little things in the background always mean so much. And I'm wondering, does every sort of little moment have a certain meaning to you in creating these films?
No.
No.
No, there's I think just like life itself. I mean, even on the surface it seems like nothing is going on. There's a lot going on. It may not be really important, but there's a lot going on. I think it's good for an audience to look at something and sort of think about their own life, and what they're even watching is interesting, In the same way, when Henry goes and looks through her daughter's things and he finds the Russian dolls and he takes them apart, and it takes a little time, but it's an interesting process to sort of spend a little time watching those things rather than being pushed along so fast as to watch this, and watch this.
Well, I guess the one scene that kind of struck me was where he puts the newspaper behind the stove,
Yeah.
and it's collecting the grease. I'm wondering, was there a deeper meaning to that? Because we see it in the background a lot in the film.
Right.
Or am I just reading more into it than what you intended to have read into that?
Well, I think that was when we did research with a lot of the Chinese families in Spokane, even specifically. A lot of the apartments are not built to have ventilation because Americans don't cook with woks and a lot of grease, so they put up the newspaper to absorb the grease. So that was purely a very Chinese thing to do for a kitchen.
So there's no metaphor there about the grease soaking into the newspaper. I shouldn't read that deep into your film.
It's okay if you want to read that deep, you know?
Yeah, that is something metaphoric. You know, when Chinese audience see this, they feel, oh, that's so true. Everybody, Chinese family do that.
Okay, now for you, I want to know, this is sort of based on their family experiences a little bit. Were you able to bring any of your family experience into creating your character?
Yeah, I think the director chose me for one reason is that my personal experience is very similar with Mr. Xi's. In terms of my past experience in China and also my relationship with my children. So doing this, I feel very, I'm really touched by the story.
Henry has a daughter who hasn't married yet, so he's very concerned about her. That's always interesting. I always liked actors who have similar kinds of experiences that they can draw from in very specific moments, just so that it could be a little more, truthful when they act it.
Well, has your daughter seen the film?
Yeah.
What did she think of it when she saw it?
She didn't say anything. I think she thinks something.
Yeah.
She didn't say anything, but she thinks Now, I want to know, with shooting on the digital camera that you guys were using, does that allow you to be more intimate with your actors, and does it allow for you as an actor to be more intimate with the other actors that you were shooting with?
Very, yeah. Because, especially in China, they count every inch, every meter. But here, the director told me, you don't have to worry, just relax and do whatever you want. So I think it's totally different.
Yeah, and I was able to oftentimes just keep rolling and just say, well, let's start from the beginning and do it again. So that makes a big difference in terms of getting the actors more into the moment and into the scene.
And also sometimes he would say, now we have done what we wanted, but now you can do with your own interpretation, and that freed the actors' creativeness.